Welcome to Children's Church. We've been going through different stories from the Bible about kids. This week's story is a little bit different. It's about a teenager, so a big kid. Now, his name was Joseph, and he had a big family. He had 11 brothers, plus some sisters. Well, he and his brothers became known as the children of Israel, because Jacob, his father, was also known by the name of Israel. Joseph was a very special kid. Now, you and I probably have had dreams sometimes that are really cool and we wish they could come true, like the dream where you go to the toy store and they say you can have anything you want. And you're like, really? And you could totally play with it right. Sometimes we have dreams that are kind of scary though. Have you ever had scary dreams where it's like, oof, you don't know what to make of it? Like especially that night where you ate a bunch of lasagna and then went right to bed and have weird dreams. Joseph would have dreams, but his dreams were usually about things that were going to happen, either in the near future or years later. But Joseph's dreams usually came true. And God also gave Joseph the ability to understand what those dreams meant. We call that interpreting dreams. So this is something that Joseph would do routinely. One of the dreams that Joseph had one time was, he told his brothers, he goes, hey, listen, guys, I had this dream that we were all harvesting some grain. Now, back then, what they would do is they'd swing a big sickle or a big knife-like thing and cut the grain off near the ground, and then they'd gather together in big bunches and tie the bunches together, and they'd kind of stack them so they were standing up like little towers. They called those sheaves, a sheave of grain. And Joseph said, we were harvesting grain, and you had 11 sheaves, and my sheaves stood taller than all the rest, and yours bowed down before me. You know, you didn't have to have the gift of interpreting dreams to know what that one meant. And his brothers said, us, you're going to be the boss of us, huh? See, that was kind of a problem because Joseph was not the oldest brother. As a matter of fact, he was right near the end of the bunch. So to have this little brother tell him he was the boss man, they didn't appreciate that. It got worse. There was another time where Joseph had a dream and he said, hey guys, listen. He was even telling his dad this one. Listen, I had this dream that I was out there and there were 11 stars and the sun and the moon and they all bowed down to me. Jacob goes, what, your mom and I are going to bow down to you too? Well, the brothers got real mad at him about this one. Jacob didn't get mad though. He pondered it. He thought about it. What does this mean? See, Jacob recognized that Joseph was really good at managing things. He would take really good care of anything that was entrusted to him. And so Jacob had been teaching Joseph how to manage a household, how to take care of things, how to read and write and things like that, because, well, Joseph was kind of his favorite. And he treated Joseph different than his brothers. So one of the things he did was he made him this very special coat so that anyone who saw him knew that he was treated special. And this coat had many different colors woven into it. It was bright, it was flashy, it was really obvious. You could pick out Joseph in a crowd like that. It was almost like, you know, when you go to a construction site and you see those guys with the high visibility clothing, whoa, there they are. That's kind of what Joseph was like because everyone else was wearing drab colors. And here's Joseph with this bright, fancy coat. Well, Joseph was out one day with some of his brothers tending the sheep. And the Bible doesn't tell us what they did. But they were being real stinkers. They did something bad. Bad enough that Joseph tattled on them. And they got in a bunch of trouble. And they were super grumpy with Joseph then. Now, later on, all of the brothers except for Joseph were out taking care of some sheep. And, Joseph and his youngest brother. And so the older brothers were out tending these sheep. And they hadn't been heard or seen in quite a while. So Jacob asked Joseph to go check on him. Now, he didn't say go spy on him, but he did say go check on him and bring back a report. So essentially, go spy on your brothers. So Joseph went out to where the brothers were supposed to be. And when he got there, no brothers, no sheep, no kidding. So he asked some nearby people, have you seen my brothers and all of the sheep? Oh yeah, they went on to such and such town. Really? So Joseph went there to go see if he could find him. Now, while he was on his way there, his brothers saw him coming. it wasn't too hard to pick him out. And they got really upset. Well, here he comes to spy on us and get us all in trouble. One of the brothers said, let's kill him. Yeah. Except for a lot of the other brothers were agreeing, let's kill him and get rid of him. Well, the oldest brother, Reuben, saw this is not going to go well. He didn't want Joseph killed. So he came up with a plan real quick, and he said, hey guys, let's not kill him. Let's just chuck his body into one of these cisterns. A cistern is a deep hole in the ground, like a well where rainwater would gather. And so sure enough, they grabbed Joseph as soon as he got near. And he's like, hey guys, how's it going? Hey! And they ripped his coat off him and chucked him down in this deep pit, so deep he couldn't get himself out without help. Now Reuben's plan was, when the rest of the brothers were sleeping, that he was going to pull Joseph out of that pit and say, get out of here, go home, so he could get his life, saved. Well, Reuben's off taking care of some things, and the brothers are all hanging around the campfire making supper and just having a good time. And along comes a group of Midianites with their camel caravan, and they were coming through to go down to Egypt and sell all their goodies to the Egyptians down there. Judah, one of the brothers, gets this bright idea. Guys, rather than leave him in this cistern where he rots and dies, how about we make a little money off of him? And the brothers liked the idea. So they hauled Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Midianites as a slave. Now, we don't have slavery today, thankfully. Slavery back then meant you could take a person who was normally a free person enjoying life and sell them like they were property. And then whoever the buyer was could make him do whatever he wanted, wouldn't have to pay him or thank him or anything. He could beat him and treat him worse than an animal. That's horrible. But it was something they did back then. And so Joseph's own brothers sold him as a slave. When Reuben came back and looked down in the cistern and saw it was empty, he was horrified. What have you done? He said. And the brothers were like, hey, chill, man. We got this. We got rid of the problem. And look, we got some money. Reuben looks at his brothers and said, oh, great idea. What are we going to tell Dad? Yeah, about that. Oh, one of the brothers goes, here we go, and rips up Joseph's coat. They killed an animal and poured the animal's blood all over the coat. And they brought that back and showed it to their father and said, hey, Dad, we found this while we were out taking care of the sheep. Does this look like Joseph's coat to you? There's no denying it was Joseph's coat. There was none other like it. And here it was torn up, soaked in blood. And Jacob believed that a wild animal had killed Joseph and started crying, and nobody could comfort him. He was inconsolable. His favorite son was dead. The rest of the brothers felt horrible, but they figured, well, this will pass, and we can go on with our life now with the tattletale gone. Well, this is not good. But sometimes the things that people mean for bad, God turns around and uses for good. Well, if you fast forward in time, what ends up happening to this teenager, Joseph, he gets sold to a guy by the name of Potiphar, who's in charge of Pharaoh's guard down in Egypt. Pharaoh is the leader. And Potiphar realizes that Joseph is not your average slave. He's pretty good at managing stuff. And fast forward in time a little bit more, you find Joseph managing all of Potiphar's house, rather. Potiphar didn't worry about anything except for eating his food. And then Potiphar's wife tells a lie about Joseph. Joseph gets thrown in prison. He's rotting in prison. And then two of Pharaoh's servants get chucked in prison because one did something bad and Pharaoh couldn't figure out which one did it. And both of them have horrible dreams that night. Joseph interprets their dreams accurately. One of those two servants gets put to death. The other one gets brought back to Pharaoh's house. Couple of years more in prison. Joseph's still rotting in prison, not knowing what God's going to do. Well, remember those dreams about Joseph being in charge? They're about to come true. See, Pharaoh has this really scary dream, a horrible nightmare, and he can't figure out what it means. And so he brought all those wise men together and told them the dream. None of them could figure it out. And then one of Pharaoh's servants goes, oh, there's a guy in our prison who can interpret dreams. I forgot about him. 2 years Joseph rotted in prison because this guy forgot about him. But he remembered now. So Pharaoh sends down to the prison, and they bring up this prisoner named Joseph. Pharaoh tells him the dream. Joseph goes, wow, that's a big one. So God's trying to warn you about the future. Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be 7 years where there's going to be so much food, no one's even going to know what to do with it. The crops are going to grow more than they've ever grown. Everything's going to be great. It's going to be feasting. But then the next 7 years are going to be complete and total famine, and everyone's going to starve to death and die. And Pharaoh's like, why would God tell me this? What are we going to do? Well, Joseph is really good at managing things. And he goes, well, here's what you should do. He said, get somebody who's really good at managing stuff. During the 7 years of the feasting and all this extra grain, he said, you take a portion of everybody's grain. They won't mind. They won't miss it. It'll be more than they've ever seen anyways. They'll give it to you gladly. You store it up in your barns. You keep it all ready. As soon as the 7 years of famine hits, sell it back to your people. And when they run out of money, they'll give you their land. When they run out of land, they'll sell themselves as slaves to you, and you'll be the most powerful thing around. Pharaoh goes, wow, that's a good idea. You know what? I don't know anyone more prepared than you. You're in charge. So Joseph goes from slave to prisoner to the second most powerful person in all of Egypt. As a matter of fact, there was only one person above him, and that was Pharaoh. He was in charge of everybody. Sure enough, 7 years of great times come, 7 years of famine hit, and just exactly what Joseph said happened. He had gathered up all that food in Pharaoh's storehouses, and the people came to him for food, and they ended up giving him all their money, all their land, and then becoming his servants. And it wasn't just the Egyptians. All the people all around had to do the same thing because that famine was all across the land, including the land where there was this guy with 11 sons, a guy named Jacob. And when he heard that there was still food in Egypt, he sent his sons to go get some. And Joseph is standing there in charge, dressed up like an Egyptian, and here come these 11 brothers of his, bowing down before him, asking for food. Yeah. But instead of being mad, Joseph remembered his dream that he had when he was a child. And here they were bowing down before him. When the brothers found out who Joseph really was, they were scared. They thought he was going to kill them for sure. And he said, no, guys, listen. What you meant for evil, God turned into something amazing. Look. And he had his brothers bring Jacob, his father, to live in Egypt with them. And because God was with Joseph, and because Joseph was obedient and very patient, because he had stored up all the things and been a good manager, the children of Israel were saved during the famine. So what started out as evil, God turned into something amazingly good. And that's the end of this week's story. A lot of details in it. So go back and listen to it one more time, and then we'll ask our questions. Okay? Question number 1. What did you like about this story? What pleased you? Question number 2 asks, what did you not like about this story? What displeased you? Question number 3 asks, what do we learn about people from this story? What people are like? Sometimes brothers. Question number 4 says, what do we learn about God? What God is like, the nature of God? Question number 5 says, what should I do differently because of this story? Now remember, this one needs to be answered, I should something. Question number 6 asks, who should I tell this story to? Now remember, it can't be somebody who's sitting there listening with you right now. It's got to be someone else. Who should I tell this story to? I look forward to seeing your answers down in the comments field, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of Children's Church.